Today we have a clash of two titans, the Audemars Piguet Royal Oak Perpetual versus the Patek Philippe 5740 Perpetual. Hey guys, and welcome back to the Shreve, Crump, YouTube channel. I'm your host, Jack Tyler, and today we have two very special and rare watches to compare to you, often not seen in the same place at the same time. Both of these watches share a lot of similar traits, but in my opinion, they wear completely differently. So without further ado, let's take this rare opportunity to compare them for you. Of course, as the title suggested, today we have the AP Royal Oak reference 26574ST in stainless steel with a blue dial going head to head with the legendary Patek Philippe Nautilus reference 5740G in white gold. First off, let's talk about the history behind these two. We are talking about two of the most iconic sports watches from two of the most important brands in the industry in its entirety. I honestly think that both of these watches have become almost as recognizable as the Rolex Submariner. For reference, the Royal Oak came out during the midst of the quartz crisis back in 1972. This was a big move for a brand like AP, who previously specialized in only dress watch complications. This move to introduce a large, expensive stainless steel sports watch really disrupted the market as we knew it. After all, the Royal Oak originally cost 10 times the price of a stainless steel Submariner. The Royal Oak was such a disruptor that it forced the hand of another historic manufacturer, Patek Philippe. Patek is not known for deriving design cues from other brands. In fact, you might think that they would be the last brand to jump on the bandwagon because of their long and prominent history of sticking to what they do best. But even the likes of Patek were shook to the core during the mid-70s, and just 4 years later in 1976, Patek hired the same designer, Gerald Genta, to design an integrated steel sports watch of their very own. As legend goes, Gerald Genta sketched the Nautilus in about 5 minutes, using the porthole from a boat as inspiration. In those 5 minutes, he managed to create a blueprint for one of Patek's most iconic and desirable models of all time. In a way, you could say that he single-handedly brought both Patek and AP back from the brink. Really quickly, I'd like to say a quick shout out and thank you to our nearing 900 subscribers here on YouTube. We really appreciate your feedback, so definitely drop us a comment on the topic you'd like us to cover next. And of course, don't forget to subscribe to stay up to date on all of our latest watch content from Shreve, Crump, and Low. Getting back into it, let's fast forward about 50 years and you're going to see that both AP and Patek have created perpetual calendar variants of these iconic models. Let's quickly take a look at the spec sheet on both of these watches so we can get a better idea of what the similarities and differences are between these two watches. The AP is stainless steel and measures in at 41 millimeters in diameter with a thickness of 9.5 millimeters. The Patek is crafted out of white gold and sports a slightly more svelte 40 millimeter diameter with a thickness of 8.4 millimeters. When it comes to the sizing of these watches, you might think that going by the numbers, they would wear very similarly on the wrist. However, the Royal Oak wears quite a bit larger in profile than the Nautilus. Now, this is due in part to the industrial nature of the design of the Royal Oak in general. With its hard lines and sharp bevels, it appears a bit chunkier and more substantial than the sweeping curves of the Nautilus. I think of it as comparing a Lamborghini to a Porsche. Now, even though both of these watches were obviously designed by the same man, Gerald Genta, you can definitely tell that he took two different approaches when it came to shaping these two watches. They obviously both share an octagonal bezel design and integrated bracelets, but yet the Patek is noticeably softer in comparison. The bezels are an area where you can really see the difference in execution. You will notice the exposed screws and hard angles used on the Royal Oak in comparison to the gentle flowing lines of the Nautilus. You'll also notice the hinges on the side of the case of the Patek that tend to make the case look a little bit more squared off than the Royal Oak. To me, the design of the bracelet is another area where you can really see the difference in the approach that was taken with these two watches. Looking at the bracelet of the Royal Oak, you're going to notice a deeply brushed texture which transitions into two large polished bevels. The bracelet of the 5740 has a much softer brushing, and its H-shaped links are held together by a rounded center link. The differences in design gives us some insight to the overall philosophy of the two brands. Where AP has certainly taken on a more brutalist, modernist approach to their case architecture, Patek has remained classic and curvy. Both are beautiful timepieces, but you have to ask yourself which one would fit your personality the best. Do you like the aggressive stance of the AP or the more subdued architecture of the Patek? Do you like the practicality of steel or the weight of a precious metal? Now, inside of these watches, you will not be surprised to learn that both contain absolutely extraordinary, beautifully finished movements. Inside of the 5740G, we have the Patek manufacturer caliber 240Q, which boasts 275 individual parts. Now, that includes 27 jewels and has a 48-hour power reserve and a gold micro rotor. Powering the AP, we have the manufacturer caliber 5134, which pivots on 38 jewels, has a 40-hour power reserve, and is also highly decorated, including a solid gold rotor on the top. Now, when it comes to the finishing of the movements, I would personally say that I prefer the Patek. It just seems like a little bit more refined, a little bit more delicate compared to the AP, but quite honestly, they're both incredibly well done. Both watches feature displays for the time, the day, date, month, moon phase, and the leap year. However, AP has gone ahead and thrown the whole kitchen sink in here and included a pointer date for the numbered week that you're in. Overall, I don't think that the movements alone would make someone pick one over the other. I think that the real choice comes down to which case shape and overall design aesthetic you like more. Now, to wrap up today's video, I'm going to ask you a question. If money was no object and you could take home either of these two undeniable masterpieces, which one would you choose and why? Drop us a comment below and let us know why you made that choice. Well, that's just about it for today, guys. As always, you can learn more about both of these watches at our website, shrevecrumpandlow.com, or just stop by and say hello at our watch salon here in Boston to experience both of these watches in the metal. I've been your host, Jack Tyler, and thanks again for spending a little time with us here today.